6 p.m. at the Norton Young Glove Multipurpose Senior Center. Submission of public comment. If attending the meeting, public comment will be allowed by completing a speaker slip and providing it to the Commission Secretary at the meeting. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes when giving your presentation. With that, we'll go with our roll call.
Commissioner Barron?
Here.
Commissioner Brittingham?
Here.
Commissioner Keith?
Here.
Vice Chair Van Heine? Here. And Chair Kinded.
Here. And staff that's with us here this evening, we have Kelly Lucia, our Planning Director, Celine Sevilla, who's sitting out in the audience, the Associate Planner, Yesa Benson, our Commission Secretary, our City Attorney, Stephanie Cowell, and we also have Mike Thornton, our City Engineer, who's sitting out in the audience. With that, would you please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public comments. Yesa, do we have any public comments on any non-agenda items?
I've received none.
None? Okay. With that, we'll move on to item number 1, approval of the minutes. Does anybody notice any corrections that need to be made on that? I did
No.
notice one.
I'll make the motion that the Planning Commission approve the action minutes of February 12, 2024 at the regular Planning Commission meeting as presented.
But there's a correction that should be made on that before we accept that. On the call to order, it just simply states the meeting was called to order at 6 p.m. by Chair Barron, so that should reflect me.
You.
So with that correction,
With that correction.
perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's approved. Okay, on to business item number 2, extension of time for 24-02 for conditional use permit 2201.
Thank you, Chair. Planner Sevilla will be handling this item.
Thank you.
For being here tonight. So tonight I will be presenting to you an extension of time, and that is an extension of time for conditional use permit 22-01, which is for the use and operation and installation of a 73-foot telecommunication facility, which will be co-locating on existing Edison towers. Some of the commissioners may recall approving this project. It is located at the southwest corner of Desert Lawn Drive and Brookside Avenue. Up on this.
I was asked to recuse because
Oh.
3 miles from my home. And the initial was asked to recuse.
Should he recuse?
Okay. We will accept the recusal.
Thank you. Commissioner Keith?
Please proceed.
Okay, so up on the screen, we do have the approved site plan and elevations. The applicant has requested the extension of time to allow for additional time to dedicate an easement that the property owner has asked for. The developer is needing the 12-month extension tonight to meet the obligations and to begin construction. Calimesa Municipal Code allows the applicant to apply for discretionary approval of a 12-month extension. The applicant filed a timely application in January requesting the 12-month extension. If approved tonight, the conditional use permit will have a new expiration date of February 13, 2025. It was set to expire February 13, 2024. I do want to make a quick note of that. There was a typo in the resolution, that's 2024-04, and that is presented to you tonight with the changes. So you'll see in section 2, February 13, 2023, it now says 2024, which is the original expiration date. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
No, why aren't they using the Edison's right away? They need an additional right of way.
Yeah, Edison asked for an additional easement.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Mike? Christine? Okay, with that, if we can get somebody to make a recommendation, and when the recommendation is made, we just have to make sure that we state that adopt it as amended. So if somebody would like to make that recommendation.
I'll go ahead. I'll make the recommendation that the Planning Commission find that the project extension 2402 requires no further environmental analysis pursuant to Public Resource Code, Section 21166, and CEQA guidelines, Sections 15061B and 3, and adopt PC Resolution 2024-06, approving extension in time 2402, subject to the conditions of approval contained in the attachment A, and PC Resolution 2406, and the addition that was added to it.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, 4-0, and John can come back in now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Please. Okay, moving on to item number 3, public hearing item. Will be open for public hearing, so we'll turn that over to staff.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission, public. Thank you for being here this evening. So agenda item number 3 is a public hearing for the Summerlin Commons Phase 2 project. There are a number of entitlement applications before you this evening. They include General Plan Amendment 2202, Zone Change 2102 for a specific plan amendment of the same number, an Environmental Assessment 2201, and a new tentative track map 38354. Okay, so the project vicinity is located here within the southwest area of the city. The project location is going to be outlined in blue below. As you can see, this project is located approximately northwest of the I-10 Cherry Valley interchange. The Commission may recall the Summerlin Commons Phase 1 project that was entitled back in 2020. That is the retail component of the project that is separate from tonight's request. Phase 2 is a residential component only, and again, that is outlined in blue on the screen. Okay, many members of the Commission and public will be familiar with this history, but whenever we do an amendment to the specific plan or related general plan, I'd like to give a very brief overview of this project, where it came from, and where we're headed. So the project as a whole was about 6,000 acres originally when it was in Riverside County. It was approved by the county back in 1988, so it's been on the books quite a long time. The county area is within present-day Calimesa and Beaumont. The specific plan area that once comprised 6,000 acres has since been kind of chopped up into 3 separate specific plans. In 1991, after the city of Calimesa incorporated, the city adopted Specific Plan Amendment 1, which comprised what we now know as the Summerlin Ranch at Oak Valley Specific Plan. It's about 2,600 acres in all. Between the years of 2020 and 2022, the city has approved so far 2 additional amendments to the specific plan. Those would be Specific Plan Amendments 2 and 3. Those were to accommodate industrial development within the Oak Valley Town Center. So the subject project before you this evening is a proposal for SP Amendment 4, and again, we're talking about Summerlin Commons Phase 2. Okay, and if I can draw your attention on the screen here, I'd like you to focus on that area outlined with the blue star, kind of bouncing towards you there. So this is an area of about 24 gross acres. This proposal is to amend the general plan, 2202, and really the primary change that you'll see there between the 2 exhibits on the screen are that the existing general plan designation is for business park and open space areas. The proposal to amend the general plan would change that designation for this 24 acres from business park to a small garden court residential planning area, and would relocate some of those open space areas. So the open space acreages stay the same. They just get shifted to follow the natural water course, which makes sense if we're trying to accommodate wildlife moving through our city. Okay. The application also includes, bless you, a specific plan amendment, as we've discussed, specific plan amendment number 4, and it would incorporate the general plan amendment changes that were previously mentioned, and they would also modify the following items within the specific plan text itself. So there are a number of items there on the screen. I won't go through those in great detail. They are provided within your staff report this evening and are available on the city website. But there are a number of changes, and again, the primary item to keep in mind is that the applicant is requesting to modify the land use designation from business park to residential. That's really the crux of the change. Something else that I'll point out here on number 7 is that the specific plan originally required 150 dwelling units under 1,000 square feet to be constructed in a high land use category to be affordable units. We've since shifted gears a little bit. Things have changed since the specific plan was originally adopted, and now we're proposing that the specific plan in total will include between 120 and 150 inclusionary housing units, and we're increasing the possibility or the number of planning areas that they could be located. So whereas previously we only identified 2, we're now identifying 4 different areas just to provide maximum flexibility. Also, because this proposed change is from business park to residential, the total number of residential units within the SP has also increased. So whereas previously the max number of units was 3,841, should the City Council choose to approve this change, the max number of dwelling units will go up to 4,009. Okay. So the tentative tract map that's being proposed would be to subdivide about 25 gross acres into 168 residential lots. These are considered small lot or garden court residential units. And the minimum lot requirement for these units would be 2,600 square feet. So quite a bit smaller than our smallest current areas outside the infill overlay zone. 6,000 is our current minimum lot size, so these are quite a bit smaller than that. There are also 6 lettered lots, an infiltration basin, and a conservation easement along the northwest perimeter of the property. Okay, here's a conceptual site plan. You will not be approving or recommending for approval architecture this evening. That would be a subsequent approval. So the next couple of slides are really just for reference. It's just to give you an idea of when and if this project is approved and a builder wants to come in with architecture. This is just to give you an illustrative example of what we might be looking forward to as part of a forthcoming development plan review or DPR submittal. So there's a site plan with some conceptual landscaping. Here are conceptual floor plans that show how the lots may be plotted. And here's some potential architecture, again, subject to builder proposal, future development plan review application. So I apologize, the font is pretty small here, but the purpose of this slide is to point out that this project, if approved, is subject to the city's inclusionary housing ordinance. So the city has an existing ordinance on the books that says if you have a subdivision of 20 units or more, and those units are for sale, 5% of those units need to be provided at a quote-unquote inclusionary or affordable price. So there are some formulas and there's some math there. There's a full report in your packet. I'm happy to go through this if needed during commissioner comments or public comment. But essentially what this is telling you is that 8 of the 168 units will need to be provided at a level that is considered affordable by our municipal code. And that means that there is a maximum mortgage amount, a maximum affordable sales price of about $300,000 required for 8 of these units. Again, we can get into Q&A on that later in the presentation if needed. Okay, so as part of this bundle of applications, the city processed what is the third addendum to the Summerlin Ranch at Oak Valley Specific Plan EIR. There were a number of technical studies conducted, including for noise, hydrology and water quality, traffic and transportation, air quality, and so on. The environmental assessment determined that the project would not result in any new or previously unidentified impacts that weren't already disclosed as part of the EIR that was certified back in 2005. So what that means is that this proposed shift from business park to residential does not, again, result in any new or greater environmental impacts than what was already disclosed. Okay, there are a number of recommended actions before you, including those for the environmental assessment, the general plan amendment, a zone change, and the tentative track map. Myself, the city engineer, and city attorney are here and are available for questions. Before we get into the question and answer portion of tonight's hearing, I do want to point out that in accordance with our order of business for public hearing, the applicant does have a presentation that he would like to give as well. So I'd like to invite Rich Rowland up to go ahead and give his presentation as well. You can go over to the podium, please. Yep.
Hi, good evening, members of city staff, county commissioners, local residents. I would like to extend our gratitude for considering our application today. Special thanks to Kelly, the planning director, Bill, the city manager, Mike, the city engineer, and members of the planning commission for the time and effort in reviewing this application over a pretty-day period. Our proposal really is based on the desire to transform the zoning of the view of the property because the business park also, the property is split between commercial and business park sort of arbitrarily around the environmental trail and really touches, residential community, but also has access to yet, in phase one. We've worked through a lot of different configurations of both of these over the last 5 years. We're under construction now with phase one, and we have preliminary plans that we've been working through all the delays, so that's held up construction, we're on time, we're finishing the study, we're advanced, plans currently have in hand. But eventually, when it all gets together, it'll be a nice, mixed-use project with retail on board, school across the street, and tenant prime homes. I know the VR forces of these homes, some of them are phase one. They were small, single-story homes. They sold in about 6 months. They got moving pretty quickly, along with the rest of some of the trucks. So these are different options, basically for the same time market. And there's one larger option with a pop-up second floor. Expanding garage there on one, we've got 2 cars in driveway on the other. The architectural design coincides with a barn agrarian that will also have indoor retail, according to the specific plan requirements. So in general, that's kind of where we are. And one of the other drivers, the reason for the driver that we picked this is that SB 330 sets forth principles and guidelines really to facilitate and expedite the development of higher density housing cities and it really has a lot of overriding reasons for the project. And actually prevents cities from not letting these kinds of projects in other private areas that we want to be very we want to have an all-zoning condition. People may have the opportunity for this use to do so. And that was one of our main reasons also we wanted to take the 330 to maintain this solution. It was a big help. Staff was a big help. And Pennsylvania officials if there are any questions, please questions along with it. Let me introduce who I have along with me. I have the co-applicant David Lorenzo and David West. Greg Walter has worked on capital partners and ownership. And I have Frank Lauer as the junior chairman of signage and development. So, famous words, figure out me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I think with that, Chair, I think we're ready to open it up for public testimony if there is any. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to public testimony. With that, we have David. Good evening.
Chairman and my name is David. The proposal in front of you today is essentially a request to increase housing density and modify the Summerlin Civic Plan by changing business park and warehouse parking. The increased housing density helps the city satisfy the demands by the state of California to make more housing available. This is good for the city as it brings in more customers to the area. However, the workaround to solve issues with the Summerlin Civic Plan area is problematic. The approval of the Civic Plan is problematic in the following ways. It approves the Civic Plan to circumvent local law that limits warehouse sizes permitted by the DOT. It approves the Civic Plan circumvents local law requiring warehouses to be at least 500 feet or minimum. Civic Plan allows the warehouse square feet or 2.3 million square feet. Given the consistent project switch from EIR, the shortcut process to amend the general plan is problematic. Rather, a proper amendment to the general plan should be completed utilizing the full EIR process. As such, I suggest the Planning Commission disapprove the shortcut process recommended by staff and direct staff to process a new general plan amendment.
Thank you. And that was the only slip that I had, and then do we have, you said we had an email?
Correct, and that just was from flood control, and it serves as an advisory to staff.
Ah, okay.
I think we would like to address that comment with our council.
I didn't put a card in that.
That's,
Mr. Chairman, is that okay?
that's fine.
And if I may, before Greg continues, I just want to make sure that the commission and everybody listening does understand that this application does not make any changes whatsoever to maximum square footage of warehouses, to distances between residential uses. This particular application only modifies the land use designation of 25 acres from business park, which would have allowed warehouse development, to residential development. Please, Scott.
I was going to say the same thing. Mr. Chairman, honorable commissioners, I think there's a little misunderstanding in the member of the public. But again, that is true. This project doesn't affect the warehouse regulations he referred to. Most importantly, from our point of view, and yours too, as far as the CEQA compliance, is the project EIR that is subject to criticism was long ago adopted, and we've got the addendums afterwards, but doesn't affect anything that the member of the public, David mentioned to you guys. So I think you're free to act as far as CEQA is concerned, and we certainly support the staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we will close public testimony, and then we'll go to commissioner discussion. John?
I just want to say the additional units, it's a definite plus for what we've been working on, and I think it was well planned out. Appreciate Mr. Rowland's efforts. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good project there. Everything is right there next to the school, so it's a good idea there. Plus, it's right within walking distance with the 3 accesses up there to access the commercial, retail commercial that's right next to it. So it's a good project.
Question on parking spaces, because the map on our platform is so poorly done, but I can see more there. How many parking spaces? Because most of one time when we get in these high-density places, there's no visitor parking. No offense, but there's, so that's one of the biggest things. So where are the people going to park when they have to come to a birthday party? Is there going to be access to them to get over to the commercial side and be able to walk through a gate or something without having to come all the way around the wall? Or
That's one possibility. I was also thinking of parking.
So, again, no comments from the peanut gallery now. So again, so parking regulations will be handled as part of the development plan review. Tonight, you're only considering a recommended action for the subdivision map. However, the proposed architecture does show a minimum of two off-street parking stalls within an enclosed garage. The streets within the development, other than, I believe it's Street A that goes back behind the Phase 1, those are all going to be private streets, correct me if I'm wrong, private streets? Okay. So whereas there may be some street parking for guests, it would be within a private street development. But again, each lot will have two stalls within an enclosed garage.
1/3 of the homes have
And 1/3 of the homes have 3.
okay, well, we'll get to that when the other planning comes around, but that's going to be an issue, I can tell you right now, because that's going to be your cluster. And then my other thing is wall number 3 being a 35-foot height. I want to go, is that from the base of the freeway, just to clarify that, up to ground level of that property, and then they're going to have their privacy fence on top of that, or is it going to be recessed back? I'm kind of curious how we're going to have that monster.
Sure. So within the noise analysis of the addendum, this is figure 5 that shows that from the pad elevation on the residential side, we're looking at a minimum of between 6 and 9 foot noise attenuation barriers because, as the commissioner points out, this is immediately adjacent to the I-10. So we would envision some noise impact were there not noise barriers installed. We don't have an exact design on the wall yet. It would come in for plan check, but as it sits today, again, it would be from the elevation of the residential pad between 6 and 9 feet.
For their privacy fence.
Noise attenuation specifically, but yes.
Okay. And we won't have an additional gap between whatever mitigation wall we have closer to the freeway and the privacy as far as a dead man's area that we're going
Sure.
to have problems with trash, homeless, or anything else congregating?
So I wouldn't envision there being a separate mitigation wall. This would be a project design feature that would function like a mitigation wall, where you may see an area of, no man's land would be along the water course, and we're going to be working with our local conservation groups to see kind of what edge conditions would be most appropriate there. Again, this is envisioned as an area where it's an ephemeral stream, that's El Casco Creek, that's currently located along that northern part of the project. And we want to, as much as possible, facilitate wildlife movement. So there would be some open areas, and again, we'd be working with local conservation groups to understand what the appropriate lighting and walls and edge conditions would be to facilitate that wildlife movement.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Anything? Kristen?
Well, I think it's great, the additional units and everything. It's going to really bring great value to our city. It's a huge need for families and downsizing. The only question I had was, as far as future phases go, it says that the 8 units will be for this phase and then but not for the future phases. What does that exactly mean?
Sure. So the specific plan as a whole, and if I can go back to an exhibit that shows it kind of more zoomed out here. Okay, so within the entirety of this boundary that you see, this whole planning area is the Summerlin specific plan. So between everything that you see from the south all the way to the north, somewhere within those boundaries, there needs to be between 120 and 150 inclusionary units. That's a specific plan requirement. Within this specific project boundary, there will be a maximum of 8. I can find that site plan again. So there would be 8 within this implementing project, and the balance of those units would be elsewhere in the specific plan. Did that make sense? Okay.
Yeah. They just have to spread it out, 120, 150 over all the different housing.
Yeah, so there would be 8 units located within Summerlin Commons Phase 2, which is the subject of this application this evening, and the remainder, or the balance of the units, would be elsewhere in the project.
Yeah. Okay. So, to state the obvious, this would help us with our RENA numbers, correct?
Absolutely.
So that's a good thing for
Yes.
the city. And then, to echo what Mike said, I think that's fantastic, that there would be walking distance to the grocery stores, and, there's an optical place over there and all kinds of things popping up. So, my only concern is, that they're gonna stay affordable. And of course, I don't have any control over that, but, there's a lot of young families that are looking, and housing market is just crazy,
So 160 of the 168 units will be market rate. So those 160 units that value and that sales price will definitely fluctuate with the market.
Yeah.
It's just those 8 affordable units that the city has some control over.
Right.
We would require a deed restriction. Typically it's a 50-year deed restriction to go on the deed of the property that says they have to be affordable. So those 8 units, we have some control over. The rest of them would be subject to market rate.
Yeah. That's all I have. So, with that, we just need somebody to make a recommendation, and Just for clarification purposes, when we do this, the recommendation, we're going to list off every item that's all the way up to 4, right? We don't have to read all the other.
Just 1 through 4.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and make a recommendation.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a recommendation that the Planning Commission adopt PC Resolution 2024-07, recommending that the City Council approve Environmental Assessment 2201 and adopt Addendum Number 3 to the Certified EIR for Summerwind Ranch at Oak Valley Specific Plan Environmental Impact Report, SCH 2004-061035, Attachment C. Adopt PC Resolution 2024-08, recommending that City Council approve General Plan Amendment 2202, modifying the land use map figure LU1 by relocating the business park, commercial, and open space designations of the Summerwind Ranch at Oak Valley Specific Plan consistent with proposed amendment number 4 to the specific plan, attachment D. Adopt PC Resolution 2024-09, recommending that the City Council adopt an ordinance approving zone change 2102 for specific plan amendment 2102, adopting the Summerwind Specific Plan Area 1 amendment for attached E. Adopt PC 2024-10, recommending that City Council approve tentative tract map 38354, TTM 38354, subdividing 24.68 gross acres into 168 numbered lots and 6 lettered lots, attachment F.
Ooh, thank you.
I'll go there.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And none opposed. Okay, very good. Thank you for reading that. Okay, moving on to commissioners' reports and comments. John?
Really don't have anything, as long as these guys don't mess with roads. No, that's fine.
Okay. Mike?
Thanks staff for all the good work that they do and everything, and hope everybody has a good week.
Mike?
Just one thing for staff, I'd like them to investigate and look into what it would require us to do notification on projects to extend beyond the current 300 feet, being that we have to recuse ourselves from 1,000 feet out, so do city council members, and it just seems like if we're going to say them that's for financial reasons that we don't want to take advantage of, seems like we're missing a whole lot of homeowners. We're not giving them the chance to speak on their behalf and their financial interests. So I'd like to see what it takes to get that moved back and at least make it half 500 feet, but it seems to me it'd be better to go 1,000 feet or whatever we're required to recuse ourselves from. We ought to make sure that mailing's going out to the public. So what we can look into and get back to me.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will discuss that item with the city manager.
Christine?
Thank you, staff. Thank you for the presentation, and everybody to the public. This Saturday is the community egg hunt, Easter egg hunt, Saturday the 30th, from 9 to 12 at the Summerwind Park. Make sure you guys all go. It'd like, be nice to see everybody out there. Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you, staff. Everybody did a good job, and appreciate comments from the public and for you guys being here. Much appreciated. Other than that, I'm done with my comments. So with that, we'll go to staff report.
Thank you. I was going to mention community egg hunt as well. So
She
thank
stole
you.
your thunder.
She did, but that's okay. I have one additional item to reference for that. We are keeping an eye on the weather. So it's 9 to 12 Saturday at Summerwind Park, and I've been told that we're going to be holding it drizzle or shine, which means if it's drizzling or sunny, we're going to have the event. But if we get a big old downpour, we may go ahead and cancel. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. I believe it's plastic eggs. And that concludes my report. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. With that, we'll adjourn to a regular meeting of the Planning Commission for Monday, April 8th, 2024 at 6 p.m. here in the Norton Youngblood Multipurpose Room. Thank you very much.